Doris, you had a near-death experience during a surgical procedure in 1983. How did this come about? I had a swelling on the right side of my neck and it bothered me because I was afraid it would develop into a goiter. So I asked my family doctor if it could be removed. He said it was not necessary, but at some point he agreed to surgical intervention. I was a junior school teacher at the time, and a goiter would have been terrible for me. So tell me, what did you experience during this surgery? Well, I was pulled through a tunnel at lightning speed. Everything around me was dark, and it all scared me. This moment only lasted for a short time, maybe not even a second, according to our time. At the end of the tunnel, I was dazzled by the light, and this was so beautiful. I could hardly believe it. In front of me, I saw a bridge going over a little brook, and I stepped onto it. It was a narrow bridge with golden railings. So I held on to the railings, intending to take a few steps toward the other side. Then I saw some angels standing on the other side. Above all, one of the angels caught my attention. It must have been at least 2 meters tall. It was a female angel with beautiful blonde hair and huge wings reaching from her shoulder to her thighs. They were whitish, transparent, and this angel looked at me with a friendly and hopeful gaze. I then looked around a bit. I saw many rocks on the left, and from my perspective, to the right of this angel, I saw children. And immediately I thought, there I see my new school class. There were about 18 to 20 children. I would say they were all boys, all wearing white shirts, and they too looked at me so hopefully. I tried to approach them in order to welcome them, but I could barely take a step or two, and before I knew it, I was pulled backwards through that tunnel again. From the ceiling of the surgery room, I saw my body. I was watching it lying there in bed, and there were 2 doctors, one to my right and one to my left, and I also heard a terrible roar echoing throughout the room, and I was surprised about this. But it was obviously me who was screaming that much, because the 2 doctors were waving their arms around and begging the nurses, saying, "Take the screamer away." Well, the 2 nurses pushed my bed into the elevator and brought me down to the recovery ward. And apparently I was still screaming. At least they were talking to each other about whether I was in pain because I was screaming so much. Even in the ward, I was still screaming, so that all the other patients, there were about 10 of them, sat up watching me. The senior doctor went to the medicine cabinet, drew up a syringe that I was administered, and in a matter of seconds, I was awake. And amazingly, I woke up happy after the injection. My head was propped up, and so then my face was glowing. A few minutes later, I heard the phone ring and my mother's voice. She was asking how I was doing, and the senior nurse said, turning to me, "You'd best tell her yourself how you are." And I said, "Hello, Mummy, I'm fine." This angel that you saw, can you describe it in more detail? It was wearing a wonderful white robe, and its wings fascinated me. I couldn't take my eyes off these wings. They were transparent, white, and very large, and reached from her shoulders to her thighs. And the figure was female? Yes, I saw that she had long hair. When you came to this bridge during this near-death experience, was it also in a mountainous region? Yes, on the left, I remember there were high mountains. I didn't look to the right at all. I mainly was looking to the left. Under the bridge, there was a brooklet, trickling. Everything was very rocky and mountainous. And what was the height of this bridge? Above the ground, I would say, maybe it was 20 meters high, as is usual. When you were young, you had another exceptional experience. Yes, I was on an around-the-world trip, backpacking and hitchhiking for 2 years, as was very usual in the 70s. And it was for 2 or 3 years. And when I was in Asia, I wanted to get on a crowded bus. So there was a real crush. And suddenly I heard my mother's voice calling my name, just as she called my name when I was a little girl. When I was about to do something stupid, or when something dangerous might happen, or when I had fallen down, or something like that. Then she would always call my name like this, "Doris!" Instinctively, I clutched my arms around my body, thereby making my body very small. And then I saw a native who bumped into me and touched me, hoping, of course, that I would let go of my hands in order to push him away, because he had in mind to steal my bag with my identity card. I had a little shoulder bag with the most important things in it, and I saw him doing the same thing to other women, bumping into them, touching them, and some of them were screaming and tried to push him away. So it was like a warning that your mother gave you. Yes, it was a warning indeed, and I think that my mother, who also has psychic abilities in a certain sense, did accompany me on this trip. She was still alive at that time? Yes, of course. And how do you explain the fact that your mother was warning you? She had psychic abilities, and she must have known I was in danger. And so to this end, it wouldn't have been an accident, of course, But if my ID card had been missing, this would have been dramatic. You had this near-death experience over 40 years ago. How can you still remember it so well today? Well, amazingly, for me, it's as if I experienced it an hour ago, and I can see every detail before my eyes. It's not that I'm merely describing it. I can even see it so clearly before me, here and now. And as to the experience with my mother, who called my name while I was in Asia, I can imitate her voice at any time. And I keep hearing her calling, "Doris!" What impact do these experiences have on your life, on your worldview? Back then and for many years, not at all. Nothing. I didn't tell anyone about these experiences either. I turned to competitive sports, so I forgot about these experiences, and during this time I was a convinced atheist, unlike my husband, who has spiritual knowledge. He often gave me a little hint as to whether I might be interested in this or that. And after about 35 years, my husband managed to draw my attention to a video interview with Elizabeth von der Hogg, and for his sake I listened to it, and I was so impressed and excited about it, and apparently this was exactly the moment as well as the time period designated for me to be able to grasp this issue. And I listened with enthusiasm to several more interviews with Mrs. von der Hogg. I also immersed myself in the subject by means of books and magazines, and all this was not so long ago. In fact, it was exactly 3 months ago. And up to that point in time, I was an atheist. So you hadn't attached much importance to this near-death experience up until that point in time? No, I just wondered a bit about it, but it didn't mean for me that there was life after death. I hadn't thought about it at all. So how are you now in a position to understand it a little better? Yes, now I can put it into context, but only now. Doris, thank you very much for the interview, and thank you very much.